website. Do you really need to look at that if your student's just going to be a freshman next year? You can, but it's just important if you're wanting to look at more options than just maybe Washington. Okay, and then science, 2 credits, so 2 years of science. They want 2 years of a lab science. So biology, chemistry, physics, human anatomy. Some schools will count integrated science as a lab. Again, some schools won't. So it's best to have a true lab science. And then on here it says Western Washington requires that one is either chemistry or physics. Okay, so SMT, since I am a Skyview counselor, I'll speak a little bit towards our SMT program. So SMT is Science, Math, and Technology. Sometimes we call it SMTM, so it's the Science, Math, Technology Magnet. So it focuses on science, math, and technology. We also offer pre-engineering courses. So if a student is in the SMT program and wanting to do engineering, that's great. We have those classes for them. I know some 8th graders, I think, are possibly in a Gateway to Tech class in middle school. That's Project Lead the Way, which we have Project Lead the Way at Skyview, and that's those engineering classes. You can be in SMT and take engineering or not. If you don't have any interest in engineering, you don't have to take those engineering classes. Those would count as your technology requirement. The nice thing about the Project Lead the Way classes are that anyone can take them though. Any Skyview student, if they just have an interest in engineering, can take those classes. Like freshmen, we have Intro to Engineering Design. Sophomores, Principles of Engineering. We have Engineering Design and Development. We have Digital Electronics. I think this year we started Biotechnical Engineering. We might offer Computer Engineering next year. We have Robotics as a class and a club. So there are lots of options there if you have a student who's interested in engineering. So it has some future career opportunities. They do talk about this in the program, like, well, what would you do if you're interested in a STEM field? What are you going to do with that? If you say, I want to be an engineer, well, there's lots of different kinds of engineering. So they kind of try and help you explore that and see, well, what are you interested in? And then the magnet applications came online today. So I would say if you're interested in applying to SMT, apply. We don't have a lot of specific application requirements other than just applying. And then if you're out of district, making sure you follow up with an out of district boundary exception. So if you apply, most likely you're going to be in if you want to come to Skyview. This year, the coordinators are going to send you a letter saying you are in to the SMT program, and then you will have to let us know that you actually want to come. That was kind of a confusion that we had this past year, is we weren't really sure who we were going to get once the school year started. Yeah.
If we live seriously on this side of the street, they go to River, and on that side of the street, they go to Skyview. And so if my son was interested in science, math, and technology, would he need to do the out of boundary, or would he need to apply to the science, math, and technology?
So he would apply just to the magnet, so that's something you guys could do today. And then he would apply to the in-district, with an in-district boundary. And so the in-district boundary forms come available sooner than the out-of-district boundary forms. And so that's something that he could get at his home middle school. So he would pick that up, fill it all out, turn it in to the middle school, and they'll get it to where it needs to go. I would say there's a very high likelihood that if he wanted to be an SMT student or a Skyview student, he would be able to do that. Looking at River, which is our closest neighbor, and Skyview, we have over 2,000 kids. River has about 1,300. This, I think, was one of the first years that we ever closed our doors on out-of-district boundaries, and that happened in September. So we don't typically say no to students. We want students to come there, especially if they're interested in one of our programs. So I would say for the most part, if you apply and apply early, you'll get in.
Was that just for the magnet that you had 2,000 that you had to close your doors?
No, it's for all of our students, yeah. And so we have students not typically coming in last minute for the magnet, just because they like to try and get everything organized before the school year is amping up to start. But we close our doors just for students who are like, well, I'm in Ridgefield, but I'd really like to go to Skyview. That's what we had to because we had way too many kids. And every year we have kids who leave in the spring, and then we have about the same amount or more come in the fall. And so it's always just kind of a dance with, okay, well, what classes do we have now? Like, this student left and they had this schedule, but this student came in and they're not going to have the same schedule. So that's always a fun time in the fall for those of you who may have high schoolers at Skyview. Okay, so four-year planning. We do a little bit of this every year with students when we do forecasting. So we pretty much do our forecasting on paper when we come to the middle schools or when we do it at home in Skyview. So on the front of our forecasting sheet has all the classes. So students go through and say, I'm going to take this, this, this. They mark on that, and then on the back side is something that looks similar to this. So it's basically the four-year planning. It'll say, like, as a ninth grader, you're going to be taking English, math, science, and then either Next Tools. Next Tools is our occupational ed class that we have freshmen take. If students want to be in SMT, they can opt out of this class and take a year of Intro to Engineering Design, and that will count for the kind of the same requirement. Basically, Next Tools is kind of an introductory computer class. Like, they talk about Microsoft Office, they talk a little bit about cyberbullying even. They do presentations about themselves using PowerPoint or Prezi. It's only a semester. Some kids love it, some kids hate it. Just something that you have to get through unless you're doing Intro to Engineering Design. So as a ninth grader, you pretty much have English, math, science, Next Tools, and PE. That takes up 4 of your 6 classes. So at least for your freshman year and your sophomore year, most of your classes are kind of already picked for you because you have to do certain things certain years. When you look down at junior and senior year, you have a lot more blank space. So I know we have students who are freshmen who say, well, you know, I wish I was taking more electives, but they're going to have a lot more time to do that. If a student did this schedule, so if they did English, math, integrated science, a semester of Next Tools, and a semester of PE, that's only taking up 4 of the 6 spots. So they would have room for 2 electives. So a kid could do AVID and Spanish, or they could do orchestra and robotics. So there is room to kind of play with that. Sometimes students think that they have to take, you know, a world language, or they have to be in that band class. I mean, it is essentially up to them and the family, but they do have some options there. Yeah.
So 2 questions. One is, the true AP classes start only the junior, senior year, that would be the first.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is there an alternative to English, like a humanities or honors or a program like that as well?
Okay, so AP, it depends on where they are. So if a student is advanced in, let's say, math, they could potentially get to an AP Calculus a lot sooner than junior or senior year. The soonest I would say that you could take an AP class just for a standard student is sophomore year. AP World is really the first AP class that students have access to, unless we offer AP Human Geography. I think we're going to have the opportunity for students to sign up for AP Human Geography. It's kind of like a social studies elective that students can take their freshman year. Are all freshmen ready to take a university level class? No, not really. They can if they want to. And then that AP Human Geography class can also count as their world history requirement, so that's something they wouldn't necessarily have to do their sophomore year unless they wanted to continue on that AP track and take AP World. So there is the potential, at least for the social studies classes, for students to take, if we offer it, AP Human Geography, AP World History, AP US History, and then AP Econ or AP Comparative Government. So that is one thing that they could do earlier. Like English, our English Language Arts is AP English Language junior year, and then AP English Lit senior year. So, and then sciences, we have AP Physics, we have AP Chemistry, we have AP Bio, AP Human Geography, AP Human Anatomy. So we have a lot of choices, and some things are tied to year, and some things are just when you're ready to take that class. And then what was your second question?
The second question is there any alternatives to English, like a humanities or honors English?
Mm-hmm. So we don't necessarily have a humanities, but we have like pre-AP classes. So pre-AP is basically honors for us, and those pre-AP classes obviously lead into AP. So as a freshman, students could take pre-AP English 9. They could take pre-AP geometry. So a lot of our classes that are just standard classes, we have pre-AP options for. And then, again, kind of attached to, you know, the older you get, we have the AP versions of things. Yeah.
Math sequence, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, calc.
Yeah, I mean, students could do geometry, algebra 2, pre-calc, stats, but we have a calc, and we also have a calc BC, which is the second year program. We run that between River every other year, just because we don't have enough kids to run separate programs. So kids could do calc BC stats if they wanted to. If they don't care about stats, they don't have to do stats. But there's options once they get to the higher level now. Yeah.
Do AP or AP, do they give you more credits?
No. So some schools and school districts will have things on a 5-point scale. We only do things on a 4-point scale. We don't do that. It looks better, I guess you could say, to take an honors, a pre-AP class or an AP class, especially if you're planning on going to university, just because when universities are looking at your transcript, they know what AP is. Same thing with IB at River. AP is a national and an international program. Same with IB. IB is nationally known and internationally known. So they'll recognize that and say, hey, well, you took AP US History, well, that is a university level class. So is it worth more in credits? No, but it is worth something. All right, go to the next slide. Okay, so this is something that we present to our 8th graders when we come down to middle school. Just a little bit about homework and studying. It's something that you have to do when you get to high school. It's like some of them kind of freak out a little bit, especially with the part in red down at the bottom, that sometimes you have to do approximately 30 to 45 minutes per class of homework and studying. That's not, it depends on the class. A lot of our teachers try and have students fulfill their homework and everything in class, so they could say, okay, well, you need to do these problems. You could finish that in class. Sometimes you don't, and then it becomes homework. Some teachers say, this is homework. You do it at home. So it just kind of depends. We usually just put this on there just so students know the reality is if you want to be successful